If this video pushes you to become 1% better today, subscribe because I upload powerful motivational speeches every week.
You know what I'm thinking about right now? I got to wake up tomorrow and do the same shit again. I got to leave this interview and go stretch out for 2.5 hours. I hate that shit. I'm constantly callousing over my victim's mentality that I once had growing up. Every day you have to do this shit. Because why? When you stop doing it, you don't just maintain it. If you stop shooting a gun, you're not gonna be a great shot if you pick a gun up a year from now. The only way to keep from getting rusty is to constantly oil that machine. The machine is this. You gotta keep challenging it every day. Believe in yourself beyond, without a doubt. Believe in yourself and don't rely on anybody to believe in you. Don't rely on anybody to push you or make you better. Believe in yourself and only yourself, and allow that human being to make you a better person. We have to break the barriers within our minds, within the world, and it starts with yourself. It starts with yourself. You gotta break the barriers down within yourself and just go there. You gotta go to yourself.
Absolutely. You have to learn, what do you want in your life? We have so much influence coming at us that we are so lost. We don't know what we want to do because we don't spend enough time with ourselves. You have to learn to shut off a phone, shut off a computer, shut off a TV. And it's okay to sit in a room by yourself in a chair and just think about you, where I want to be, where do I see myself tomorrow, the next year from that. And it takes a lot of self-discipline to be able to do that nowadays, because you want to be so attached to everything. You want to be so caught up with the world. The world's moving too fast. The world's moving so fast that you're trying to keep up to the point where you lose yourself in the world. So you have to take that time and go to that dark place in your mind and discover who you are.
So the brain is an amazing thing, but the brain controls you. You must control it. You must take power over your own mind, or your mind will guide you into all the soft places that your brain wants to live in. Your brain has enough information. It doesn't want to go through that process of mind hardening. It doesn't want to do that. I gotta remember what time I gotta be here, what time I gotta be there. This is where I want to stay. I'm peaceful. It wants to stay very peaceful and away from scarring. So that's what it is, man. Everything I didn't want to do is what got me to where I'm at today.
Interesting.
Every single thing. So where we find comfort, that's where I started getting scared. When I started saying, oh, it's raining, I'm not going out there. No, you cannot say that. You cannot do that. You have got to do this. So whatever my brain thought, I did the opposite. Wherever the comfort was, I went the opposite direction. And over a period of time, boy, it calluses the shit out of your mind. So many of us come from these small places in our mind that we're not willing to think outside of only what we've seen. Our mind works in such a small compartment. And one thing I was able to do was to dream. Many people, but don't make dreams your fucking master. But I was able to dream outside those 4 walls of that small town. And until you're able to really put yourself into that dream, but don't make dreams your master, that's where you truly become what you're destined to become.
What do you mean, don't make dreams your master?
A lot of people sit back and they dream about being a sports figure, or dream about being a SEAL, or dream about being an astronaut, and all it is a dream. They don't put the work behind the dream. That dream has become their master. When you become the master of your dream is when you say, I want to go be a Navy SEAL, and you say, okay, I'm gonna lose 106 pounds in less than 3 months. The dream was the one thing I thought about, and the dream was now gone. Now, what comes in, the dream goes away, and the laundry list of details and tasks come up. Gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this. That's when you become the master of your dream. So a lot of people out there dreaming. Anything that makes me feel that fear feeling is gonna get overcome.
You go do it.
It's gonna get conquered. That's almost like fear is my ultimate guide.
of where you're supposed to be
of where I'm supposed to be going.
Yeah.
It's my ultimate guide.
I started with very small goals. You know, it wasn't like I went out there and, well, I started out real big, and I realized that the big goals were just crushing me, you know, because they weren't happening fast enough. And I had to start making big things very small. And I had to take a lot of pride and a lot of satisfaction from the fact that, you know, I had to lose 106 pounds in like less than 3 months.
Wow.
Which was an impossible task for anybody to do. So instead of looking at 106 pounds, man, I was happy to lose a pound. I was happy to run a quarter mile.
You have to want it. You have to want to be better. And it starts off with, you have to have pride in yourself. You have to have pride in yourself. You have to have, there's something about you, whether it's your last name, whether it's just the smallest thing. You have to be proud of yourself. And if you have no pride in yourself, I can't give it to you.
Because you're always going to compromise. You're always going to fold.
Always. I'm very proud of myself. That's why when people said, you know way you can do better than Can't Hurt Me. Roger that. We'll see. It's that pride that wakes you up. Now I'm not talking about bad pride. The attention to detail for the human being I want to do. I call this thing, like, I want to be the standard. I want to be that guy. Like, every place I went in the military, there was this ethos about how this place is, how we're going to live, how we're going to represent ourselves. And I walked around and I saw that most people didn't live up to that ethos. The human mind is the most amazing thing ever.
That's insane.
And everybody has a limit, but find it first.
You got a limit?
I haven't found it yet.
I don't think you have.
I haven't found it yet.
It's pretty crazy.
It's crazy. I haven't found it yet. I find it at times, but what happens is I then figure out how to get around it, through it, above it, climb over it. So those limits, I'm always, that's what I said, I taught myself how to fail. I'm always skirting on that like limit of like, okay, I'm there. Okay, I failed, but I was right there. What did I miss? What the f did I miss? Oh, that's what I missed. And then it happens. Man, right now, I've climbed a lot of walls. There's no more walls anymore. The reason why is because I know how to climb. I was trying to figure out how to climb before. I got all the right gear, man. I got the ropes, I got the shoes, I got the chalk, I got the harnesses. I'm good, I'm not scared to climb anymore. I go to the rock, hammered in, I got my belay, and I'm good to go. So you gotta figure out how to climb first, and that's all. We all have a different way of climbing. That's why there's a lot of books out there on mental toughness. It's all crap. Why? Because it's a cookie cutter way. Life isn't cookie cutter. Like 3.14 is pi. It's how you figure out equations. We're all different equations. We all have a story. We all have to strengthen our mind to figure out our own equation. Once you figure out your own equation in life, you can then start picking away at how to be better. But you first have to figure out your equation in life. Once you figure that out, man, you can do anything. When I overcame the fear of myself, the fear of failure, the fear of being judged, the fear of kind of like, so in this process, I went from David Goggins, I started forming a guy named Goggins. I had to really I realized I had to reinvent a whole nother human being within myself, because who I am wasn't going to make it. This guy is not going to cut it. So I had to be a guy who can take any kind of pain, any kind of suffering, any kind of torture, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I had to have the people who, I had to visualize everybody that called to be in a room of people like this. I had to make up these things in my mind, of things I had to overcome. And I started callousing my mind through a process, and it basically started with working out. It started with working out. It started with doing, like, if it started raining outside, for instance, my mind would say, F that, man, I don't want to go run. If it was 3 o'clock in the morning, it started raining outside, my mind said, you got to go
Get
run.
up and go run.
You have to, because I was fighting this other person. Because when I grew up, my mom worked 3 jobs, and all I wanted to do is, she got her damn near murdered. And it took her down a dark hole. And I saw this. That helped me grow up to say, all I want to do
is retire my mother when I get older. That's all I wanted to do. And thank God I did that. But the thing about it, with a lot of people, they don't have that in them. The parents raise the kids very differently now, so the kids don't have that sense of self. And I believe in self-discipline, self-pride, self-motivation. No one has that self anymore. That self is gone. So that driving force that tells you, I have to do this. Yes, I run every single morning. So that's
what time are you up? When are you waking up?
I'm up about 5:30. So every morning it starts with a run. And that's because that's the one thing I hate to do more than anything in the world. So that's like my cup of coffee. And I'm all about armoring yourself. So the second you leave your house, and the second you open your phone, the second you do any of that, you are now letting in poison and cancer. So I make sure a lot of things you can't avoid. So as I get up, I start to armor plate my mind and body. Like a person's going to war, you put your body armor on. That's what I'm doing on that run. I'm waking up and I'm giving myself all this armor. So when I come out in the world, now look at that phone, I'm ready. I'm not waking up late. I'm not rushing around. I'm not disorganized because I know I'm gonna get hit in the fucking mouth. There's an art to getting hit in the fucking mouth. And that is why these things are important. You have to wake up and you have to give yourself belief. You have to give yourself confidence. So it starts with that run. So after the run, I come home, I eat something small.
How long's the run typically at the moment?
Nowhere under 12 miles. So 12 miles is the minimum.
A lot of years of living, I honestly believed I was put here to show people how to get through the dark times. What mindset it takes to get through the dark times. When you've almost reached the pinnacle, but you never will. You never will, just because the lessons aren't learned at the top of the mountain, my friend. The lessons are learned in the middle, at the beginning, never at the very top. So that's why I became so knowledgeable, man, because I never made it to the top of the mountain. And every time I almost did, I had to climb back up. And every time I climbed back up, the lessons became more crystallized. Everything became a lot more clear to me. And then some of the things I missed on the first climb, I got on the second climb. But it doesn't mean because you're climbing the same mountain over and over again that you're not super successful. It doesn't mean that at all. I'm super successful. But the success came from climbing the mountain over and over and over again. And now I know the fastest route up that mountain. I know all the dangers. I know all the trip holes. I know all the wiring and ropes and anchor points. I know them all. I want to make sure that I'm always ready for any and all obstacles that come my way. And those obstacles aren't a running race, not a biking race, not some military training, nothing like that. Those obstacles that, that we confront every day is the obstacle of life. And life is the greatest competitor of all time. So it keeps me waking up every morning, it keeps me training in all the disciplines of life is the greatest competitor, which is life.
I keep thinking to myself like, okay, well, if I was gonna get killed or Layla was gonna get killed or people I cared about were going to die if I didn't come up with another solution, or if I made the thing that I wanted to have happen, what other things would I do? And usually it's a lot more. Whatever way you have to unlock that level of trying, that level of effort, like most things are hilariously easy to do. It's just more easy. It's easier to just do nothing. Most people do nothing and get nothing and are dissatisfied because their expectations that they would get something for that nothing of work. What's crazy is that the highest levels of effort are so rare amongst people that you can unlock most things in the universe with it by just really trying like your life depends on it. Because it does. Most of the time we know what we're supposed to do, we just have trouble doing it. Like you know what you need to do to get a six-pack. You know what you need to do to build muscle. People already know this. Like you don't need to know anything about training to do that. You just stop eating crap, maybe eat some protein, and add more weight to the bar over an extended period of time. That's it. That's all it is. You know that already. And yet you haven't begun because you haven't really tried. Like, it's hilarious to me. It's apparently rarer to have a six-pack above age like 30 than it is to be a millionaire. If you want to achieve a goal, you're either gonna have to accept boredom or pain. And the bigger the goal, the more of both you'll get. When I started my gym, I actually lived with 6 other people in one house. The thing is like, I was doing that when I was making like 20 grand a month take home. There's always trade-offs. And the trade-off for me of living in that condition was that I could invest in the dream and build the business that I had at the time. Now I could look back because I ended up losing everything, a few years later. You get this negative cycle of like, all of that suffering was for nothing. But it wasn't for nothing because I learned all these skills along the way. You also can't operate from the perspective of like, I might lose it all in the future, which means everything that I do today is not worth anything. Because like, you're gonna lose 100% of everything the moment you die. So trying to say that you might lose something in the future is a reason not to do something is ridiculous. You're gonna lose everything at some point. You cannot wish for both strong character and an easy life because the price of one is the other. When I think about pain, I think about what thing am I paying for right now? And is that thing something that I want? And if so, it reframes the pain as the price of the thing that I want.
There's this line that I heard David Goggins say, "I'm David Goggins, bit." I remember him saying it, and I thought to myself, like, you want to be able to say that in the mirror to yourself and not laugh at yourself. Mm-hmm. And the only way that I can do that is know that when no one's watching, I work harder than when they're watching. And thinking about it like that has given me this persistent and ever-present scorecard or third party that's like, no one's watching, which means now you have to work because otherwise you're full of shit.
So after I lost everything for the second time, think about, like, I tell the story, but it's very easy to gloss over. But think about this. I had left my job, went to a new area, didn't know anyone, started a gym, didn't have enough money to have an apartment, slept at my gym, just grassroots got it going, made the gym successful by working there every hour of the day, was finally successful enough to be able to open a second location, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, finally feel like I tasted success, like I'm actually doing something, I'm actually pretty good here, like that bet that I made actually paid off. And then I lose it all. And so I sell all those locations, I put the money in a new thing, and then it's gone. And so I could look back and say, wow, I just spent all those years and I actually have nothing to show for it. The only thing I would have had to show was the money that I made. And so one of the other repeated fatherisms that he gave me was that education is the only thing that no one can take from you. The skills you have, the skills you acquire along the way are the only thing that are truly yours. There's nothing else in this world that actually belongs to you. Your clothes can get stolen, the belongings you have.
You can define commitment by eliminating alternatives. So if you're committed, you've eliminated alternative actions. Right? Like you can say I'm committed, but until you eliminate other options, you're not committed.
There's always a get out of jail free card.
Right. And so a lot of people make decisions to end relationships, to quit their job, to start the new thing, but they don't become committed to the decision until they remove the other options. And then you're forced to take action on it. And so I think actually defining those two different things. Now you could define, decision as to kill off, like decidere from Latin, but from a colloquial thing, I think there are two different instances. It's like I need to change this, and then I do change it. And the making the decision is when it becomes a commitment.
You can say, you know what? You are right. Your dad kicked the shit out of your whole life, and you don't have any confidence because he told you you're a piece of shit every day. You're right. But in order to be rich, you need to let that go. Because every day you say that I'm not successful because of this, it means because this now owns you. And for me personally, that realization that the thing that I hated most in the world, the things that I blamed for why my life wasn't the way it was, I was there. And just realizing that made me angry. But through that anger, I was able to say, well, fuck them. Like, I will succeed despite the fact that my dad said this or my mom said this. Despite that, despite the fact that the chips are stacked against me, I will still win. You have nothing to lose. And that means that you can take lots of risks very quickly
and end up in the exact same position you are, which is nothing. And so if you eliminate downside, it should decrease your action threshold, meaning you should be able to do more things faster rather than do fewer things because you don't have a great life or things going for you. And so I think if people flip that, a lot more people would take action because they actually realize the advantage of their position.
If you've ever been so drunk that you're throwing up and you think to yourself, man, I'm probably not going to remember this. The good news is that once you do succeed, that terrible period of vomiting or whatever the difficulty is that you're going through, it'll actually compress in your mind. And so as difficult as it may seem in the moment, it actually doesn't stay with you. All you'll have left is the thing you accomplished. You won't remember the work that it took to get there. There'll be a significant discount on the punishment you endured. I tend to have a bad habit of really not looking back very much. And so I occasionally will go through my photos and I am reminded about all of the mistakes and the detours that I took along the way to where I wanted to go. You will die. Months later, no one will care. And so why care about what they think so much when they care so little about what you do? Like, take the risk, right? Shake off the losses, shake them off. Because in the end, you live for the story only you can tell to the only person who was there with you the entire time, which is you. You might as well make it epic because you're literally the story writer and the story listener, the story consumer. We're born alone and we die alone. Even if other people captured your entire life, they still don't know what was going on in your head. They don't know your intentions. They don't know what you were thinking through at every given moment. Only you do that. That's why being able to, over time, in my opinion, be the judge, jury, executioner of your own faith and your own judgment is one of the most valuable things you can do because you're the only person who can say, good job. You might win in some circumstances and not have tried. To me, that's a loss. Because you know you could have put more in. You didn't empty the tank, right? You left some on the field. The other extreme, if you followed a logical thought path and you moved mountains to try and accomplish something, and if you actually had exhausted every possible path that you could think of, truly, beyond costs that were not worth the price of whatever you were trying to get, you exhausted all of the paths that were worth it, and you don't get it, other people may have said that you lost, but you know there's nothing else you could have done. And so you can still say, good job. Your life every day exists as evidence that you can handle everything that has come your way. And I think that if you've ever had any need for evidence, let that be the greatest evidence of all.
I think to myself, man, I'm afraid of doing this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm afraid of what this person's going to think about me. Because if I were to be able to fail in quiet, in complete isolation, then I wouldn't care. And then I think, well, what if I don't succeed in public? What do they think then? Nothing, right? They don't think about me at all. And so obviously that comes from the perspective of seeking to gain approval and attention from others anyway. So it's like, listen, if you're insecure, which everybody is, let's be real, you might as well use the insecurity to get something out of it, right? Like one of my favorite things about entrepreneurship is like use what you've got. And so a lot of people think that they need to fix their conditions in order to get like the perfect conditions before they start. But the perfect condition is whatever one you're in because it gives you whatever assets you have. That's the cards that you're dealt. And so you just play the hand. And a lot of people have great cards. It's like, man, I'm so afraid of, it's like, use it. It's like, I have nothing. What makes you very dangerous because you have nothing to lose. I think that most of us can look back on our lives to 10 years ago and think about the problems that we were dealing with then and think about how much of a pittance and how small those problems were compared to the problems that we deal with today. At least that's how I probably feel. Maybe you feel the same way. And so I then think, okay, well, if I feel that way about the problems that I had 10 years ago, then 10 years from now, Alex will look back at the problems that I'm dealing with today and feel the same way. And so if he feels that way then about the problems that I have now, then the only difference is the perspective that he has that I don't have. And so I might just be a sensitive little pansy, and maybe these aren't problems at all. Maybe these are just facts of life, and I need to habituate to them. So I spent 5 years building a chain of gyms. So I had 6 locations. And after that, I sold 5 of them. I shut one down. And then I transitioned to doing turnarounds. In the transition between shutting my gyms down, I got a big payday because I sold my 5 gyms. Big for me, relative. I took all that money and I put it into the next thing. The partner that I had in that next thing ended up taking the money and disappearing, filing bankruptcy, and sending it to his girlfriend in Sweden. I couldn't make this up. So there was no way I could get the money back, and he had filed bankruptcy. So there's no course of action for a lawsuit. And so a lot of people would probably go through that mental situation and think, and I went through this, was thinking, I just wasted the last 5 years. Like I literally started to change, put everything into the second location, put everything in the third location, the fourth location, kept going, right? I kept doubling down, and then I get my big payday, and I put it all on black, and then it disappears with one spin of the roulette. And so here I am, and I'm like, I have nothing to show for the last 5 years of work. But then in the next 12 months, I made more money than I'd ever made in my entire life up to that point. The 5 years, I made more profit the next 12 months than I made in the last 5 years times like 5. And it was because, and I was only able to realize this in retrospect, which is why I'm sharing it, which is that the thing that was the outcome of those 5 years was me and the skills and the experiences that I possessed through going through it. And so whatever the next mountain that you're trying to climb is, of course it's going to be higher, but it's going to require you to go through the smaller mountains to get to that point. So, because the more able you are, the more able you realize you can become. And you will get way bigger outcomes from the things that you had, like the path that led you here, than you think you can. That's why since that moment where I lost everything, and then I was able to make more in the next 12 months, I realized that no work is wasted because I am the output of the work, not the outcome. And that was one of the biggest frame shifts for me in never thinking that work is wasted, because the more I work, the bigger my work ethic, the more my work capacity increases.
When you're growing in a business, it's very painful. When you're stagnating in a business and you're plateaued and you don't know what to do, it's very painful. When you're declining and you also don't know what to do, it's very painful. And so that means that all conditions of reality are painful. And so if pain is a prerequisite for reality, then it means it's just a signal that we are alive. And so in thinking about that, rather than pain as a problem, it is a signal that I'm breathing, and then becomes irrelevant. There was a guy, friend of a friend, successful entrepreneur, and he got really bad cancer, like super bad, really, really fast, right? And I think he lost his like trachea and some other stuff, and like they thought he was going to die. He ended up making it. And he was telling my friend, he was like, man, so grateful. And it was like, you'd think it was like the whole I see life a different way now. It wasn't that. It was while he was going through it. And his reasoning was, how cool is it that I get to live this part of the human experience? He's like, so many people don't get to live this. Like, I get to know what it's like to have cancer. Like, so many people live their whole lives and then die not knowing what cancer was like. I get to know that. And I just thought about that. It's like a very interesting frame. It's like whether it's bankruptcy, going to jail, like even the depths of human suffering. And some people who are still going through that trauma, I'm not saying that, like, I'm not justifying it. It's just a frame on like, being human is the rainy and the sunny days. Like, you can't skip weather. And so I think like embracing the totality of the experience can give you gratitude for what feels locally like a low point. But most of the defining moments in our life, broken leg, then he doesn't have to go to war, right? When you expand the time horizon, those are the things that create us. If you want patience, then you're not going to get things quickly. If you want to have endurance, it's like you have to be able to tolerate suffering, right? If you want to be wise, it's like you're going to have to get burned, and you're going to have to learn the value of judgment. And sometimes that means you're going to get betrayed in order to learn that pattern. And so it's like we lament the price tag for the things that we want. And I think that, at least for me, my ultimate, long-term goal is just to become the person that the best version of me, right? And I think that in order for that to happen, I will have to go through pain.
What actions I'm willing to take despite the judgment of others. And so a lot of times, and it might be because I have more insecurity than everyone, that I think like, man, I want to do this thing. And then I hear all these other voices of reasons why I shouldn't do it, or why somebody else will say like, that's bad, or you're bad, or like, that's wrong, whatever. And so I think I've had to come up with a lot of these devices to get around my own insecurities, to take action despite those insecurities. And the biggest one that I think about is that it doesn't matter whether I achieve all of my goals or I don't achieve all of the goals. In 3 generations, I'll be forgotten, and the only people who were naysaying against me will also be dead. And so then it's like, just do it for me. And then when I wake up every day, there's only one voice I have to listen to.
I had a mentor way back when I was starting my gyms, and he was like, yeah, we do flyers. That's how we get customers. So I was like, okay, so I'll do some of those. He said, you should try that. So, print out 300 flyers, and, advertising was expensive and I was broke. And so 300 was the appropriate amount of advertising that I could stomach. And so we put out 300 flyers and I waited. And then the next day I got a call. I was really excited. And as soon as I pick up the phone, I was like, oh, hey. And it's like, I got one of your flyers. I was so excited. And he says, yeah, you dinged my Mercedes. And I just immediately panicked and hung up the phone. I didn't even say anything. Thankfully, he never called back, but that was the only call I got from my 300 flyers. And so I called the mentor back and I was like, hey, you told me to do, a decade plus ago, and way more entitlement. I was like, hey, you told me this was gonna work, right? And he didn't even respond to that. He was like, well, how many did you put out for your test size? And I was like, what do you mean by test size? He's like, well, what was the first batch that you tested on so that you could then scale it? And I was like, well, I put out 300 in total. And he just started laughing. And I was like, why are you, I'm having this very serious moment. You know what I mean? I was like, what are you laughing at? He's like, hard to know if anything works with 300. He's like, well, we test with 5,000. He's like, and then if we get 0.5% back, he's like, then we're okay. 1%, I'm scaling to the moon. 1.5%, he's like, I'm singing praises. He's like, if you had 0.5% on that, he's like, you'd get 1.5 people. He's like, and that's tough to see with 300. Can't really know if anything's working. And I remember thinking that moment, like, I might have been doing the right thing, but I was not doing nearly enough of it. And I think that there's a lot of early on, and like, I think that story can apply to a lot of things, to early entrepreneurship. It's like, we can get disheartened by our first month of making content that we haven't made money yet from it. But it's like, not that you're doing the wrong thing, you just might not have been doing it either long enough or enough of it, which time is really just also a proxy for doing enough of it.
I didn't need to deserve success, but I could still have it if I did the things that created success. And so it felt like a cheat code where I was like, I can actually be a shitty person and horrible and suck at everything, but if I still work out and I still eat this way, I can still look this way, even though I don't deserve it. And that was like the first, it actually felt like, I was like, for anybody who hates themselves, you can hear me, that was like my first big shade, my first solace, my first foothold that I started getting on success, was that I didn't need to deserve it. I could still have it anyways. And that was like very empowering for me.
It's not about doing your best. It's about doing what's required, because what's required might be better than your best is right now. But the good news is that your best can get better.